Starting the recording now. Okay, so we're going to look at communication, and I'm going to go straight away to the screen share over here. So
Yeah.
I'm going to try and condense a very, very long, complex process into under an hour tonight, just to get the idea and the feel of it. And I obviously won't be able to cover every angle of it, but I'm going to do my best. So this is what I call horizontal communication or decolonizing communication, on the
Yeah.
idea that empire and colony are always about dominance. They're always about lines of domination, giving orders, one person above another, one group above another. So the chain goes down from the person at the top who gives orders to the person below, who generally gives orders to the person below that. And then, depending on the scale of this would be, for example, the king ordering the general, ordering the soldiers, or the captain who orders the foot soldiers. Or in the patriarchal system, it would be the grandfather ordering the father, ordering the wife, ordering the children. So that's really what pretty much all of us have grown up with, because we're living in a world where colony and empire took over pretty much the whole planet. All of the peaceful civilizations that didn't use this form of structure got wiped out. Making sense so far?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And agree so far? Do you think this is true, what I'm saying, that we're in that culture?
Oh, I agree.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, where we are now is a lot of us have realized that living this way is destroying the planet, destroying us. And some of us have also started realizing that it's also destroying our relationships, because we're either, just because it's a point in history, but also because of the choices that we've made, we're trying to live more like this, where instead of this top-down chain of command, we actually have people encountering each other as equals, trying to create a heart-to-heart connection. And we often find that we can't manage it, no matter how hard we try. And we don't understand why it's backfiring and it's not working, because we've grown up with these tools and we're trying to use these tools to achieve this. And it's like trying to use a spanner instead of a screwdriver. They kind of have the same job. Um, they work to loosen something that is a threaded connecting piece, like a bolt or a screw, but they're completely different. And if you're trying to use a screwdriver to do a spanner's job, it's just not going to work. And we might even end up hurting ourselves and breaking what we're trying to fix. Again, making sense so far?
Yeah.
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 Okay, so how do we do this? It's not a quick change, because most of us have grown up with this from when we were born. It's
Yeah.
kind of built into who we are, and it takes a lot of conscious awareness to shift over to this. But it is
Exactly.
possible. I know that it's been very slow for me, and I would not call myself an effective horizontal communicator yet. When I'm really focusing, I can do it pretty well. In my moments when I get triggered, I still go straight back to this.
Yeah.
And my main tool at the moment is learning to stop myself before I say anything, so that I can try and change modes. But at this point for me, I still have to change modes. I have met people and seen people and been inspired by people who live here, and I want to live there. And I hope
Mm.
that I get there pretty soon. But the point
Yeah.
is that even with only being able to part time over here and making lots of slips over there, I've already seen a huge change in my life and my relationships. And that's why I feel very passionate about this. And I see a huge impact with self directed education, because self directed education is this: We are saying each person is respected in their own right and trusted to make their own intelligent choices, and we support each other as equals. This is conventional schooling. The government gives the curriculum, the head master or headmistress gives orders to the teachers give orders to the students. There's no communication going back up in this chain except the communication that is demanded. So, for example, this person would never give this person an order. This person would never give this person an order. They will only give the communication that is asked for or demanded. Whereas here, anybody is free to communicate with anybody. Anybody is able to talk and the other person is available to listen. This person doesn't have to listen to this. So this is, as I say, colonial or empire style schooling. This is self-directed education. So it's quite important, again, that we use this kind of communication as much as possible, because if we come into trying to do self-directed education using this, then it's out of sync with the relationships that we're trying to foster. Okay? Making sense? Still on track?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. So, some examples of the difference between these two things. Let's just have a little look at a list, which I have borrowed. I hope that this is not horribly copyright. Oh, no, it's not. This is actually my own list. Great. So here we go. Empire and colonialism would be vertical. Community and decolonization would be horizontal. Armies are vertical. Families and villages are ideally horizontal. Competition
Ideally.
is vertical. Collaboration and cooperation are horizontal. Communication of oppression is vertical. Communication of connection is horizontal. Do what I say, vertical. Hello, nice to meet you, horizontal. Yes, sir. No, I want to be top dog. Or hello, nice to meet you too. So here there's always this power struggle for who's going to be on top when we try to be equals and we're still being vertical. Veni, vidi, vici, I came, I saw, I conquered. On the other hand, I came, I connected, I grew, would be horizontal. Vertical would be I win and you lose. Horizontal, I win when we're both happy, win-win. Vertical, the game of who's right. That's Marshall Rosenberg from Nonviolent Communication. I think that's one of his absolute genius moments, is saying, yeah, let's play who's right. Is the vertical game we all play to see who can get onto being on top, versus horizontally the game of let's love. Vertical is always fear-based, and horizontal is love-based. Vertical is about me good, you bad, and vice versa. Me bad, you good is also vertical. I'm okay, you're okay is horizontal. Telling and sharing horror stories is vertical. Self-insight and understanding of the other is horizontal. Sorry, has one of you, I think, has got maybe your speaker close to your mic, which is making a bit of an echo? If you can just have a look at
I
that.
don't have a headphone, so.
Okay.
Is it better now?
I think so, yes. It seems to have gone. I think. There we go. Okay. Me versus you is vertical, and we, us, is horizontal. Reward and punishment are vertical. Acknowledgement and appreciation are horizontal. I want to just pause there briefly. Does it make sense that reward is also vertical?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And just because we are recording this for everybody, let's just clarify that. This person can reward this person. Can this person reward this person? No.
No.
It doesn't really work that way. In fact, if this person tries to reward this person, it would be seen as some kind of insubordination, wouldn't it? It would be like a rudeness. Same thing with praise and blame. Praise over here praise over here would be flattery. It would be not perceived the same way as praise. So praise goes this way, flattery goes that way, and they're subtly different. But they both belong in here. Does that make sense as to why that would be?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So over here, it wouldn't be praise. What a good boy you are. Well done. Because then you are being a judge. You are saying, I have the power to decide about whether what you did was good or not. I have the power to evaluate you. Whereas here we appreciate each other and connect. I enjoy what you did. I appreciate what you did. I'm grateful for what you did, or I'm inspired by what you did. Okay. Superiority and inferiority are obviously vertical. Equality is horizontal. Shame, vertical. Acceptance, horizontal. I want to take a moment with this word as well. It's a very important word. I don't know if you've heard me harp on it before. Have I done that yet in this group?
Say again, because I can't read it.
Shame, the word shame.
Oh, the same.
Yeah, have I spoken about shame yet in this group?
No.
I don't remember. I don't think so.
Okay. So shame is a feeling of helplessness and not good enoughness, of feeling that I am fundamentally flawed in some way that I cannot change. And one of the best explanations of shame I've ever heard is that shame is when there is something that you feel an enormous pressure to manage, and yet you don't have the ability to do it. So it's like, again, here, somebody or something is demanding that you manage something that you're incapable of. That's the feeling of shame. Whereas here we have acceptance. I can't manage this. Okay, I can see that you can't manage it. There's no pressure. Then it's not shame anymore. It's simply a feeling of humbleness, of, okay, I'm not perfect, I can't manage it. Whereas here, we're demanding that you manage it even though you can't, and that becomes shame. Is that making sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So again, you see with our systems of education, this is also why we've got to be so careful in this system that we don't go into evaluation, because when we evaluate, we're also saying, well, what you did was good enough or not good enough. And if that is what you can manage right now, then we're inculcating shame, which is unfortunately something that happens a lot in the colonial empire system of education. You got a D, it's not good enough. And if you tried your hardest, your really hardest, and you got a D, then there's nowhere left but shame. Okay, back to our list. Vertical, fighting what is true. Horizontal, loving what is. That's Byron Katie, a very amazing horizontal communicator, and I strongly recommend that you have a look at her system, her work. It's very, very useful in relationship and also in terms of our own self-growth, in terms of actually fighting reality, saying things should be other than they are. It's not okay that this is happening. It's not okay that this person is this way. It's not okay that this person is doing this, versus actually being able to say, well, this is how it is, and I'm going to start from there and then love it into transformation rather than fighting it. And that's a bit of a complex one, but does it basically ring true? Yeah. I'm not going to go.
Well, the whole thing about loving into transformation, I suppose you also got to be careful, because you can say it, but underneath you're just trying to get someone to change.
Yes, and that's where it's too big a topic for this call. We won't then manage everything in an hour, but it is really worth investigating, because often what happens to me with loving what is sometimes I find I don't need to change anything. Sometimes I find that it was just my attitude that needed to change, or some other part of the system that I would never have thought of while I was still fighting what is.
Right.
Okay, vertical, obviously master and servant belongs in vertical, whereas in horizontal we are partners. Vertical transaction, direct exchange. I pay you, you give me. You owe me, I owe you. Transactions, whereas in horizontal it's sharing. Vertical, exploitation and destruction, and horizontal is sustainable access. So when we look at a list like that, and that's just a quick little play list, you could add a lot more things under here. But there's kind of a sense here of this is the old way where we've been sort of as a global westernized culture for the last couple of 100 years or more, maybe a couple of thousand perhaps. This is really what we're starting to play with now, and it's very exciting that we're playing with this on a bigger and bigger scale, because this is also our survival. If we continue doing this, we're not going to have a planet. Or at maybe the planet will luckily survive, but we're not going to have a human species on it anymore. If we can really master this, we could make quite an amazing future for ourselves. Okay, how are we doing so far?
Oh, good.
Oh, good.
Good for me, yeah.
Okay. So the next question is, how do we do it? What are the steps?
That's
So before you get there, Je'anna,
Pardon? Yes.
I think I should maybe mute my microphone so you don't hear the car park. Do you know how I can do that?
I'm not sure because the interface on the phone is different to the interface on the computer. There should be a little microphone thingy. Can you see my
Okay, cool.
point here? You just click that. And then anytime you want to
All right.
speak, you can just click it again. Okay?
Do it now.
Cool.
Okay.
Okay, so the steps. The first step is to make a neutral statement of the situation that is free from evaluation and judgment. Oh my goodness me, I shouldn't type these things live. Hey, so we're talking here about conflict resolution where there's a problem to solve. We'll go into how to use this communication more generally when there isn't a problem. But today we're going to focus on this because this is kind of the emergency use that everybody needs this kind of communication for. So that's why I want to focus on this, because it's kind of in some senses the most important to grasp. So we first step in communicating this way is that we want to communicate what's going on so that we can put everyone on the same page. So for example, if I say, if I walk into a kitchen where children have been baking and I say, this place is an absolute disgusting mess. It's a disaster zone. I can't believe you did this. Would that be a neutral statement free from evaluation and judgment?
no,
No. Okay.
not at all.
Okay.
Yeah.
So instead, I would be wanting to do something that would effectively communicate what it is that I'm highlighting. So I'm basically setting the agenda for what we're going to talk about. And I want to be as neutral as possible, so in a way that everybody would agree that that is true. There's no argument to be made. So I might say something like, there's flour on the floor. I see cake batter down the side of the cupboard, and there's a spill of sugar all over the table. Would that be free from evaluation and judgment?
Yes.
Yeah, depending on my tone of voice, which is the other thing.
If I can add something, is, I feel like, is when you, for example, when you're doing field observation and you have to describe things. You just describe what you see. You describe a blackboard. You describe you're not gonna say, oh, the blackboard was falling. You said it's just the description itself, not putting any feelings, right?
Yes, because the feelings are going to come in, but they're going to come in cleanly in their own section. So it's kind of giving everything its own space. So, yeah. So sometimes it would be more subtle, because I mean, what I've just described is a very physical situation. Sometimes it might be more abstract, like I was expecting to see you at 3 and it's now 5:30. Would be a
Right.
neutral statement. So by doing this, we're first creating a common ground and getting everybody onto the same page. And you know now what it is that I want to discuss with you. Whereas if I say something like, I'm just thinking, for example, from some of the children's conflict resolutions, they often start with saying something like, she was mean to me. Can you see that there's no content there?
Yeah.
Or, I can't believe you're so irresponsible, or he's so irresponsible. Is there any content there?
No.
You know, so by starting with a neutral statement, we're looking for what is the content that we can all agree is there. So there's no argument, it's a neutral statement, and now we all know what we're talking about. Okay, any questions or comments about this before we move to step 2?
It's fine by me.
Okay, and Al, I trust you'll just unmute anytime you want to comment.
Yeah.
Okay. Step 2.
All good for me, thank you.
Okay, fantastic. Step 2 is empathy for the other person's feelings. So again, in the vertical, what we tend to do here, even if we were to state it neutrally, it would still be imbued with our feelings and our needs and our judgment, because we don't really care about this person's feelings and needs. We want what we want. So it might be, there's flour on the floor, there's sugar on the table, clean it up now. I expect it to be spick and span when I come back in 2 minutes' time. Go. That would be my feelings and needs. I'm disgusted by this. And my commands, my action commands, my solution that I'm going to impose, with no regard for your feelings and needs. Whereas here, I want to first figure out what's actually going on for you. I know hopefully I know what my feelings and needs are. We don't always, and that's also part of the skills we need to learn, is actually how to get our own feelings and needs. But we also need to get to what is going on for the other person in this situation, because only if we know that do we have a bridge between us, once we both understand where each other is. Now, to ask the other person what's going on for you would be an interrogation. This is one of the other lists that I will refer you to, but you can find it online, and I think it probably is copyright, so I don't want to put it on here. If you have a look for blocks to communication, roadblocks to communication, you'll find it echoed in How to Talk So Kids Will Listen and Listen So Kids Will Talk in Faber and Majlish, the authors, and also Thomas Gordon's Parent Effectiveness Training. They talk about these roadblocks to communication. One of them would be questioning people, because here we interrogate. Okay, so the kitchen's a mess. Why did you do it? Or what's going on for you? You're putting the person on the spot because you're demanding that they give you an answer. So you're trying to get this information about where they're at, but you're using these tools to do it, which makes them feel isolated and might put them into shame. Does that make sense?
Yep.
So this is one of the places where we go wrong when we're trying to do this with these tools. That whole penny for your thoughts approach. It's difficult to do in a way that somebody's going to be receptive to it. It's easier to do it in a way that's going to put somebody's back up. So instead, what we do in this kind of communication is we put ourselves on the spot. We make ourselves vulnerable by trying to do something that we might be failing at and being humble about it. Humility is another word I want to quickly unpack. Humility means that I know that I could be wrong and I actually want to find out if I'm wrong. Instead of playing the game of who's right and trying to defend my position and prove that I'm right, I would rather find out and correct myself if I am mistaken. So we're going to guess what their feelings are. And again, it's going to be an empathy of where the other person is, not an evaluation or judgment of them. So maybe in the kitchen example, I might say, "You're really having so much fun." And then that saying that aloud, this reality check kind of operates everywhere. We could draw some arrows here, and when I get better at sketch and things like that, I will. By saying this out loud, "You guys are having so much fun in here," I'm giving them an opportunity to correct me. And the more that they are used to being in horizontal, the more likely they are to correct me. Because over here, you don't correct the person above you. So if that person says, "You are having fun in here," you kind of grin and just accept what they've said rather than saying, "No, I'm not having fun. I've had a disaster in the kitchen. You know, the cat just ran through here and knocked everything over and now it's ruined my cake." You're giving them an opportunity to give you information that you don't have.
Can I ask a question?
Please, all the way, please do that.
Yeah. But in this case, if because they know they have the case in the kitchen, they have done something that wasn't the plan, for example. The way you ask, having so much fun, does not sound sarcastic?
Again, it's going to depend on your tone of voice, your feeling, your genuine feeling, and your relationship. Because here, absolutely, sarcasm. "I can see how much fun you've been having." Okay. So here, I am genuinely moving into space where I'm putting my anger aside. I'm parking my anger. I'm going to come because I know I've got a space in a minute for my anger. I don't have to throw it all out now. I'm making a genuine attempt to try and first understand where they are. And I'm guessing you guys have been having so much fun. Or, again, feelings and needs are not discrete steps. We're trying to do that because we're trying to break this down. Maybe the feelings and needs get combined. "You really wanted to surprise me by baking something." This would be a guess that you would base on you really taking a moment to try and feel what's going on here. Look at the situation, see if you can guess. Or you wanted to make a cake for Daddy's birthday and it was too hard for you to wait for me to finish my training call. Okay, so that would be sort of the needs. Feelings and needs like, "Oh, you were so excited because you've just learned how to use the oven, and you didn't want to ask me because you want to feel independent now that you are allowed to use the oven on your own." So you'd be guessing these things. And because you're doing it in a way that is radiating honest acceptance and humility, you're creating the safety for them to correct you. And every time you do this process, you get better at it and they get more used to you doing it, and they are expecting that you're now talking like this, and it gets easier and easier and flows more and more every time you do it. I actually quite like to recommend to staff that we practice these steps all the time when the situation is not hot, just to get ourselves into the habit. So, for example, when I was practicing this, I remember the one day, it was in the middle of winter, and the children came in, and neutral statements like, I see you've got your really warm woolly hat on, because it's really cold today, but it feels nice and cozy on your head. Okay? But said in a way that I'm not actually imposing my description on the person, said in a kind of a friendly, welcoming way, like, hi. Because firstly there, I'm practicing for myself what's a neutral statement, what's my guess of their feelings and needs, and I'm also starting to get both of us used to being in that kind of communicative position where I'm kind of tuning into you.
Same line.
Yeah, and the more that we build that, and the more that we get in the habit ourselves, and the more other people have that feeling of connectedness with us, then the easier it is to do this when things get hot. Okay. So I've already kind of covered that. Again, guess their feelings, guess their needs. So it doesn't have to be rigid, like must say a feeling, must say a need. But if you find that you're always saying feelings and never saying needs, you're going to have a problem when you get to making the solution, because the solution will have to meet the needs. So, yeah, but we'll get there. The reality check is speaking it out loud so that they have the opportunity to correct you, and you have the opportunity to hear your own words and correct yourself. Otherwise, we're going back to making assumptions. Okay? We can't assume what has happened. When we say the neutral statement, there's flour on the floor and sugar on the countertop. When we say you were so excited to bake for Grandma's birthday, we've got to be clear that's not the neutral statement, because that would be an assumption. We've got to be clear that's us trying out our guesses about the feelings and the needs. And that's why these steps are separate, so that we can be clear and we've got a different feeling when we do that. So here, in a sense, we're making an assumption, but it's not an assumption because it's humble. So I know that I am guessing. I know that I could very well be wrong, and it doesn't really matter if I'm wrong, because what I'm really doing is I'm giving you an opportunity, I'm giving you an opening to let me know what's going on for you, and I'm also giving you an opportunity to feel known and understood and connected with, because the more I work with this process, the more I'm actually going to be spot on and get it right. And the feeling of appreciation when somebody else actually gets what your feelings and needs are, even when they disagree or feel something very different themselves. It's very heart connecting to be accepted and known in that kind of way. Okay?
Yeah.
Ready to move on?
Okay for me.
Okay. So the next step, obviously, is to communicate your own feelings and needs. Now, again, this won't apply in every single situation, because it depends on the application that we're using the communication for. Today, we're using it for conflict resolution, and we're assuming that the conflict is between yourself and this other person or people. We're assuming that you have feelings and needs that also need to be addressed in this communication today. And there are two arrows here. It is not enough for this person to be guessing the feelings and needs of this person and addressing the feelings of this person when we are in conflict, because what that will do is actually put us into this chain again, except that it will put us in a subordinate position. I am going to guess your feelings and needs and come up with a solution to meet your feelings and needs, because you are the one who matters. It's a martyr position. I am sacrificing myself I will feel resentful to you. I will not feel connected to you. Does that make sense? So this is also often a mistake that we make when we try to do this, but we come from here, is we end up actually in martyrdom and resentment. Does that look familiar?
Yeah.
Yeah, because we say, oh, I must be nice, I must be horizontal, I must give myself up and be nice to the other person, I must be loving and caring by sacrificing myself. And that is just another form of vertical.
Yeah.
Okay, so now we communicate my own feelings and needs. Again, it will become easier with practice. A lot of us, unfortunately, because we've grown up here, we have not had practice in actually knowing our own feelings and needs, and we've not been given a vocabulary for feelings and needs because we never needed it. All we had to do was give orders and take orders and deal with situations. So our emotional literacy in this culture is very lacking. I am still amazed when I read the lists of feelings and needs that you can get on the internet, and it's really worth Googling it.
Okay.
Again, all of these different communication trainers, you can easily find it. And the subtlety and refinement, we make so many mistakes. Unfortunately, they seem to be mostly in English at this point, but it would be great to see more and more translations into different languages, because obviously each language also has its own feelings and needs words, and it's quite interesting how these words differ from language to language, that some cultures have words for feelings or needs that other cultures don't even name. It's fascinating. But I mean, for example, in English, jealousy and envy are very, very different feelings. Yet we've lost the vocabulary for that. These days, people use one word for both. Because jealousy is actually about holding on to something that is yours, and envy is actually about feeling resentful that you don't have what somebody else has. So,
Yeah, it's kind of negative.
yeah. Yeah, so we kind of need to get our emotional articulation. The more we can refine it, the more accurate we'll be. And the better we'll be at understanding somebody else's position, and the better we'll be at communicating for ourselves. And when we do this with children, we're also strewing for them the vocabulary of feelings and needs. We're exposing them to that vocabulary so they have the chance to pick it up and use that tool for their own self-expression, which is a very great gift to give. So now it's time to communicate my feelings and needs. Can you see why it is so important that this is over here and not up here? If I communicate my own feelings and needs first, what's going to happen?
You don't have empathy.
Well, they're going to assume we're over here. Because over here, my feelings and needs are the only ones that matter, and they're usually the only ones that are spoken. So one of the mistakes I often make is, I know I'm going to do this process. I know it. I know I'm going to speak your feelings and needs as well, but I forget and I start with mine. And that gives the other person the cue that we're over here because they're hearing my feelings and needs. They now assume that they are meant to respond to my feelings and needs. So if I walk into that kitchen and I say, there's flour on the floor, there's sugar on the tabletop, I feel really distressed and angry because I've got to cook here now and I'm in a hurry and I won't have the time to clean up. Can you see they're already going to assume we're here? They're going to react as if we're here. Whereas if I start with them first and I say, there's sugar and flour and you guys are having so much fun and you're so excited for grandma's party tomorrow that you wanted to start baking because I took so long in my call and you just couldn't wait. And now already my feelings are shifting because I'm empathizing with them. So now what's more likely to come out of me is already transformed. But even if it isn't, I'm really distressed though because I have to cook here and I can't do it with this mess. And I'm really feeling very helpless because I don't think we can clean this up in time. and I just don't know what to do, and I'm stuck. And I'm actually feeling angry because I would have liked you to wait for me. So even though I might express some quite strong feelings still, they've been heard. They've had a chance to correct me about where they are at. So while they might feel a little bit remorseful, they might feel remorse. They might regret that they did it this way because they can see that it has negative impact on me. That is very different from shame, because I haven't put a pressure on. They should have guessed my feelings and needs. They should have met my feelings and needs. They can't now. It's hindsight. It is an impossible task to rewind and not do it. So if I'm communicating to them in some way that they should have done differently and it's not okay, that's shame. Whereas I see why you did what you did. It has validity. I understand your motivations, and there's impact on me. Now it's more likely to have an empathic process where they now want to help me, and we are connecting in dealing with a problem, rather than here where they are going to just feel like, you know what, we were just trying to have fun. We were trying to do something good. We start justifying and being resentful at being blamed. And there comes the game of who's right, as we both try to get on top. And they try to prove that I shouldn't be so stressed about my kitchen, and Granny's birthday is more important. And we go into a wrestle here, trying to get on top. So that is why it is so critical that the steps go in order. Even if they are a little bit blurry edged, they need to go in order. Yeah, make sense?
Yes.
Great. So my own feelings and needs. If I only say my feelings, again, it's going to cripple us when we come to solutions, because nobody's going to understand why I like or don't like the solutions that we want. If I just say, I'm feeling really distressed and angry, you might think that my need was to have quiet, or my need was to have you clean it up. And you might be saying, oh no, but it's fine, we're going to clean it up tomorrow, promise you we will. You're not understanding that my need is to cook now. So it's going to engender a very different set of solutions. So it's important that I define my needs. And again, I highly recommend to go and look at lists of needs, because it's difficult if you don't have the vocabulary at the beginning. And the reality check here would be that you want to get some sense that they have understood your feelings and needs, that you've communicated effectively. Have they understood? But you don't want to ask, do you understand me? Okay. Again, non-verbally, you can get a bit of an idea from how they're responding to you. If you're getting still very uptight body languages, or they're arguing with you, you might need to go back around the process. Have they felt heard? Do they feel that their feelings and needs are really acknowledged? Because if they do feel their feelings are needed and needs are acknowledged, they're more likely to be able to hear mine. And then if they've heard mine, then they are likely to go into more of a heart space with me, and there's going to be a good feeling between us, even if it's a bit awkward and a bit remorseful. We feel like we're in a good space together. And it's important to not rush to try and get the solutions before we have a feeling of being okay together. So again, that is something that comes with practice, to feel out if you've been understood, or if you need to say more clearly about your feelings and needs. And sometimes as we speak them, we actually get clearer on them ourselves. This is also where I would recommend the Byron-Katie process is something to use long term. in terms of also reality checking our own feelings and needs. Do I really feel that? Is that really what my need is? Because again, we're not usually that emotionally literate, and we can assume that, my feeling is anger. But anger is kind of famous in the alternative communication community as being a masking feeling that usually has something else under it, like shame or helplessness or embarrassment, or frustration, or hurt. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah, that anger is
The
often
mindset
our
and
way of
the
kind of kicking back and trying to push away a feeling that makes us feel small and helpless, which isn't comfortable. And then the anger makes us feel more empowered, again. So as we practice this, we also learn to reality check our own feelings and needs, and we just get generally more able to tell the difference.
yeah.
Okay, so then when we are feeling like we're on the same page, we know what the neutral situation is, we know what you feel and what your needs from this are, we know what I feel, we know what my needs from this are. And we might here need to go into more looking at the needs before we do the solutions. For example, let's update what your needs are now. Okay, we've spoken about what your feelings and needs were when you baked and what my feelings and needs were when I walked in the door. We might need to do another round here of now moving forward. I'm guessing that you really want to finish making your cake because you're only halfway and you really want this to be ready for grandma tomorrow, and that's important for you. Again, they've got the opportunity to reality check you
Mm.
and say, well, no, actually it wasn't working and it's all flopped, and we could just as well rather take our pocket money and buy her something in the morning. Or they
Mm.
might go, yes, it's really important to us. And my needs now. What I need is for us to get fed. And now it's really important here, separate needs from solutions, because we often confuse needs and solutions. So, for example, I need this kitchen cleaned up now is not a need. That is a suggested solution to which I'm attached right now. Am I making sense?
Yep.
Okay. Whereas I need to feed us, yeah, that's what I actually need. I need us to be able to have dinner in an hour. Or I need us to be able to have dinner in time tonight for the rest of our routine. That's actually my need. We might come to an agreement under the solutions that doesn't involve cleaning up the kitchen at all. We might come to an agreement that we're going to buy pizza tonight because the cake's more important, and we won't actually have time to clean up the kitchen tonight at all. And the kitchen will wait until tomorrow because we've all got free time, the whole afternoon, and then we can get in together and do it for fun, as a bonding exercise. So that's where it's just really important to get clear on what are the needs behind the solutions. If the needs here are kind of implying a particular solution, we probably need to dig deeper as to what those needs are. Okay. Then, when we feel ready that we know what everybody needs to have happen now, we go into brainstorming solutions. And here again, if you go first, be silly. Okay, you'll need to explain what brainstorming is the first time you do this. Brainstorming means blue sky, anything's possible. We don't evaluate ideas while we're brainstorming. We throw out anything that comes to mind because it also can open up creativity. And we explain that to somebody the first time that we're using this process with them, and maybe also the second time until they get it. Okay, and we also need to remind ourselves to get it. You're going to have fun and bond while you're brainstorming solutions rather than trying to get an outcome. Remember, with self-directed education, we're always about the process, not about the product. So yes, we want a solution in the end, but the process, how we get there, is very important. And we want to stay heart to heart. This is very goal directed. Solutions and outcomes and products is pretty much all it cares about. It doesn't really matter how you got there as long as you get to the right it. Over here, sometimes our products are not that refined, or they're not what we thought, or things go sideways, but as long as we are still in heart space and connecting together, we find value no matter what happens. And we often come up with far more amazing products and solutions than we manage to generate over here. Okay, so a bit of advice. If you go first, be silly. Try not to go first, okay? Do you have any suggestions for what we can do that would work for both of us? And then have a silent pause. Give them a chance to go first. Again, we're signaling clearly that we're not here, because this, I suggest the solutions I want. In fact, I don't suggest, I say the solution I want, and then I demand that you implement it, and I remain attached to it until you do it. So if I speak first here, again, there's a chance that they're going to interpret that we're over here because I spoke first. So if I go first, it's important that you don't take me seriously as this is the solution I want, because I need to cue you that we're over here. So by being silly, I cue you that we're still over here. So I know what, just to brainstorm, because we won't evaluate the solutions until we've got a whole list of them. Let's get a pet elephant who can spray this kitchen down for us. Okay.
Yeah.
Then you know we're not over here. Okay. And you want them to come up with solutions, but again, you don't want to pressure them to come up with solutions, because then you're back in vertical. You must perform and come up with solutions. I'm not going to do all the thinking. You also have to work and come up with solutions. It's okay if you come up with all the solutions, as long as they genuinely feel they have the space to suggest things. And if you are needing to suggest on their behalf, you need to really think win-win, and detach from your favorite solution, because there's probably a better one, because your favorite solution probably only serves you. Okay, so you want a whole list of solutions. They might, for example, again, suggest that you buy the pizza and they finish their cake, or they might suggest that you make something for supper that grandma also loves, so that you can share it with her tomorrow. Or they might suggest that you all eat the leftover cake off cuts for dinner. I have always been amazed by the solutions that kids come up with. Sometimes they're just totally things I would never have thought of, that are just genius. And again, this is creative problem solving, which, if we're looking at a form of education, making space for people to learn how to brainstorm and problem solve in a collaborative way is one of the core, if you like, core subjects of self-directed education. It's as core as maths is in this form of education. Because if you can collaboratively problem solve in a creative, open-ended way, you've got a very, very useful skill for life and career in this point of history. Okay, so where are we? There we are. Okay, once you have a list, now you evaluate. So especially if you often find that at first people come up with solutions that are holding a position. Well, you just don't cook and we just carry on with our baking. Or you just clean up and I get to cook. So when we haven't calmed down enough, we often grab those solutions and we attach to them. So the attitude to take then is, okay, we write those down. Now, what else? What else? And then you throw in a few of the elephant squirting the kitchen clean to just get that flow going. Once there's an easier feel around the list, it's time to evaluate. And then you go through together, and again, you need to be fair. This solution won't work for you because you really still want to give grandma her cake. So me just cooking and you just stop right now and clean up right now won't work for you. And this one of me just not feeding us because we can just all eat cake off cuts doesn't work for me because I won't sleep if I have sugar for supper without proper food. And you work at it until you have something that feels like everybody can do it together. And you might need to lean in, meaning you need to genuinely look for a common ground rather than trying to do something that might be perfect for you, but it puts the other person at the bottom. But the aim of this kind of communication is not to compromise. The aim of this communication is to end up being the kind of communicator and have the kind of relationship where you can genuinely find a win-win that really feels good to everybody concerned. Okay, I can't believe we got there by 7:05, but that is the basic rundown. And now let's have a moment or two for questions. Hi, I see that Randy's joined us. I don't know how long you've been here, Randy.
Hi there.
Hi. Are there any questions? We have recorded the call. So some of the questions that you missed maybe from the beginning of the process will be covered in that recording. But are there any questions that have come up or anything that's not clear from what you have heard?
I have a question. Just so you mentioned the book, and just to practice the process, just practice it in real life. Is that what you're suggesting? And just kind of go about it.
The more you practice, I got quite a few books. And when I found that I wasn't managing to do this in real life, my solution initially was to get another book. So, I've been through I think I started with the How to Talk So Kids Will Listen, and then I went on to the PET, the Parent Effectiveness Training, and then I went all the way into the roots of the NVC. And, each time I was learning these amazing things and getting these incredible insights, and it wasn't making any difference to my practice.
Yeah,
and
that's what I figured.
That's why in this facilitator course, I'm trying to condense this information as much as possible, even though I'm risking making it a little simplistic and we're not going into all the applications and we're not going into all the feelings of possible needs. I feel get practicing as quickly as you can.
Okay. Great. Thank you. I gotta go exit off the call. I'm gonna.
Yeah, we're all going to wrap it up now. The aim of this was to keep it under an hour. So we're going to put this up. Randy, I just want to check you're okay for us to put this up for general public use. Okay, I'll get your permission by email. Cool.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay. All right. Any last question before we wrap up?
No, I just would like to say that it's really difficult to apply this all the time. As you said, as a constant practice. But as you said, as you are conscious about, conscious about it. It's easy to change a little bit here and there, and try and go and find information and get better.
Well, yeah, and it's literally like training a muscle. It's very hard at first and we don't have the strength. And the more we do it, the more we find we can do. And that's also why I say the practice, I think, is so critically important. Because there does come a time when it suddenly starts feeling easier and easier. So, yeah, I don't think that people like us who've grown up with vertical are that likely to become incredible communication ninjas, but some people have done it. I mean, Marshall Rosenberg didn't start out horizontal. So yeah, well, let's just all do the best we can.
Let's not give up.
That's it. But the other thing that I definitely have found, to just say in closing, every time I manage to do this with somebody who I have an ongoing relationship with, the more that they are able to click into this mode with me, and the less they expect this from me. And so the relationship itself starts to root more over here, so that the occasional slips into here don't have the same impact. And it's really important to be able to say, I'm sorry, I didn't really manage to say that the way that I wanted to say that. Can I try saying it differently? So that you can actually have that self-correcting process also as part of the relationship, which is also incredibly educational for everyone concerned.
Yes, true.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, everybody, and good night.
Thank you.
And I will put it online and you can listen to it again. And I'm going to put it up public so you can share it with your friends and loved ones, because I think that this is something that's incredibly valuable to be able to take into our communities.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Bless you.
Okay.
Good night.
Yeah. Good night. Bye-bye.
Thank you.